Hello and welcome! My name is Zoe Si, and I'm a cartoonist and an illustrator, and I created the artwork for this year's Summer Reading Club, which I hope you're taking a part of. I'm recording this from my home in Vancouver, BC, which is in the traditional and unceded territories of the Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, and Musqueam First Nations. And I want to thank the Greater Victoria Public Library for inviting me to do this presentation. So my talk today is all about drawing your own adventure. And as you know, the theme of the Summer Reading Club this year is Crack the Case. So today I'll be showing you how you can create and draw your own detective character, and also how you can use cartoons to draw your adventures in your daily life, like I do. So before we get to the cartooning, I'll start by telling you a bit about myself and how I became a cartoonist, because I wasn't always a cartoonist, and how I draw my adventures in my cartoons. So, if you're here, it might be because you love drawing or because you're interested in drawing. I personally realized that I loved drawing when I was this big. I was very young, and as you can see, I had a great fashion sense. It was the 90s. So I have a mom and a dad and a big sister. My whole family is from Singapore, which is a tiny island in Southeast Asia. They all moved to Canada after my sister was born, and then I was born here. Growing up, I loved watching Disney movies and other animated shows, and I also took part in the Summer Reading Club when I was a kid, and I loved reading children's books. My favorites were the ones with really funny and expressive illustrations, so Roald Dahl books and Robert Munsch books were among my favorites. And I also love to read comics. And Garfield was, again, one of my favorites. All these things inspired me to draw. I spent a lot of time copying my favorite characters from the movies and the TV shows and the comic books, as well as creating my own characters. As you might have guessed, drawing was my absolute favorite thing to do, and it was my dream to grow up to be a cartoonist or to illustrate the children's books that I loved so much. And I made it there eventually. So far, I've been lucky enough to illustrate these children's books that have already come out, and I have a few children's books coming out next year as well, such as Teeny Houdini, which is coming out in January of 2022. I also draw cartoons for The New Yorker, which is a weekly magazine that features a lot of topics like journalism, essays, etc., but it's also very well known for its cartoons. But, as I said before, I didn't become a cartoonist right away. Growing up, I did well in school, so my parents encouraged me to go to university, which I did, and eventually to law school. And this is the law school at UBC, the University of British Columbia. And of course, after that, I became a lawyer, and I practiced law for several years. But all through this time, drawing remained really important to me. And, you know, being a lawyer is a really serious profession, and I don't really think I'm a serious person. I like to laugh at comics and draw funny cartoons and stuff. So in law school, I decided to do an art challenge where I challenged myself to draw every day for 1 year and post it to a blog. This was just a way for me to keep art a part of my life, so I wasn't spending all of my time studying. When I first started this challenge, I was drawing lots of different stuff, but mostly realism and fashion illustration, because I figured I'm a law student, I should probably be serious about my art, just like I am about my studies, right? Not so. Once exams started, I started to get a little bit stressed out, and all my drawings started looking like this. And as you can see, this is me reading a book and crying a little bit because I'm not feeling great. All through law school, I drew cartoons every day, and a lot of them were about how I felt and what was happening to me. And if I was feeling sad or anxious, I discovered that my cartoons would make me laugh and make me feel better. And they would also make my friends laugh, and this is how I discovered that cartoons are a great way to share experiences and connect with people. When I became a lawyer, I continued to draw cartoons about my life. So here's me arguing in court, and here is me in my very messy office. As you can see, it was drawn directly from life. And in addition to drawing about my work life, I also like to draw moments just from my everyday life. So for example, here is me in Hawaii trying to eat a snow cone, but unfortunately it melted before I could get, through it very, very much. And here is another cartoon of a puppy that I saw in the snow enjoying the first snowfall. And I think this is a great way to kind of take a snapshot of your life. It's kind of like taking a picture, but I feel like it's a lot more fun and a lot more personal. So at the beginning, I just drew cartoons about myself and I posted them on Instagram for people to see. And this was just, again, a personal project just for myself. But after a few years of doing this, a publisher took notice and offered me my first book illustration contract. And I've been illustrating books ever since. So this is Wolfie and Fly. It came out in 2017, written by Carrie Fagan. And here is some behind the scenes of working on that book. I painted the pictures on little scraps of paper, and they eventually made their way into the finished book. And last year, I started drawing cartoons professionally for The New Yorker. And what's cool about The New Yorker is that I still get to draw cartoons about my everyday life, but now, instead of just posting them to my Instagram, I also get to put them into a magazine. So for example, here is a cartoon I drew recently featuring me and my dog surrounded by our quarantine comforts. So last year, I made the switch to becoming a full-time cartoonist and illustrator, and it's been a lot of fun. To this day, I still draw comics about my life most days. It's how I process what's happened to me during the day, how I can work through any issues, or even just to celebrate happy moments. And it honestly feels kind of like having my own private party. So in this year's Summer Reading Club artwork, I tried to represent kids from all walks of life to show how everyone can have their own cartoon adventures, regardless of your ethnicity, your gender presentation, your ability level, etc. So here is my initial rough sketch of all the characters. As you can see here, I'm sketching, their facial features, their hairstyles, I'm choosing their skin tones, and of course, I'm, planning out the most famous character and my favorite, the dog. And here are some more behind the scenes of rough sketches together with their final illustrations. So here are the kids in the cave finding the monster. Here's one of the boys doing research in the library. Here is another one of the boys carrying his big stack of books to his detective's office. And of course, here is one of all the kids running through the field in pursuit of mysteries and treasure. So I love cartoons because you really have the freedom to create any characters you want and tell any story with just a little imagination. And I think anyone can draw cartoons. So today I'm going to be showing you how you can draw your own detective character. You can do it like I usually do it, which is to draw myself as a detective. Easy peasy. Or you can make up your own character entirely, like this. Cool hair, cool sidekick, matching hats, why not? To give you some ideas for what detectives might have as accessories, here you go. Cool hats, notepads, disguises, badges, the magnifying glass, lots of things. I would just think about what you want your character's strength to be in solving their mysteries and their favorite thing to do. It's also fun to think about, changing up the clothes, the hair and skin color, playing with the height. The world is your oyster. You can do what you want. And sometimes I have some trouble imagining what I want things to look like at first. And I find that what helps is to sometimes think of a word instead, and the word can help to inspire images. So here are some ideas for character traits that might get your creative juices flowing. Is your character brainy, brave, strong, fast, clever, sneaky, determined, resourceful? Just think of these words and think of what each of these words would look like. So if you go ahead with drawing your character later on, I would encourage you to come up with a name and their favorite thing to do as a detective to kind of flesh out the character a little bit. And if you want to, and if you have time, you can also think about drawing a sidekick. And the sidekick can be a person, an animal friend, it can even be a robot. It's just someone who goes along with your character and helps them to solve the mystery. So today, I'm going to draw a couple of things for you just to show you where I'm coming from. I'm going to draw one character and their sidekick. And after that, I will draw an adventure from my own life. And I hope that this will inspire you to pick up a pencil and draw your own adventures as well. So the first thing I'm going to draw for you is a detective character. So if we're thinking of words to describe her, she would be meticulous, meaning that she is very detail-oriented. So I like starting with the eyes because they're in the middle of the face and you can build your character out around that. So here she is. She's concentrating really hard on what's in front of her. And we'll give her a little hat, because that is what detectives wear. Okay, and in one hand, she is holding a brush to brush for fingerprints. And, okay, this other arm here. Just kind of kneeling for it. She's wearing her little detective boots. So this is a bit of an old-fashioned technology, if you will, but old-timey detectives would get this fine powder and they would blow it onto the area where there might be fingerprints, and then they would sweep all the extra dust away, and then the fine particles of dust would stick to the fingerprints because fingerprints leave behind kind of an oily residue. So here's the girl, and here is her sidekick. Her sidekick is a big fluffy dog. He's got a little spot around his eye. His tail is wagging because he's really excited about solving this mystery. And what is the mystery, you might ask? Well, the detective and her sidekick entered the room to find that all of the dog's cookies had been stolen. So here's the cookie jar, and it's empty. And there's the lid. Someone knocked it over. And so that's why this pup is so anxious to know who stole the cookies from the cookie jar. And as a bit of an added aspect to the mystery, we can add a cat. And the cat is back here. And the cat is holding one of the cookies, which I think makes it, or it at least suggests that maybe the cat has something to do with this, but they don't see him, and he's not about to reveal himself. So here you go. Here is the first detective cartoon. Oh, and we were going to come up with her name. So I'm going to say that the dog is Rufus, and the detective is Bianca.
Rufus and Bianca on the case. All right, so let's go on to our next drawing, which is the drawing from my own life, drawing an adventure. So when I say adventure, I don't really mean like detective adventures, but I think that, you know, a lot of things that you do in your everyday life can be adventures. So for example, my favorite daily adventure is walking my dog. So this is me, and I'm looking worried, and you'll see why in just a moment. So I am holding an ice cream. But can you guess what's about to happen? I have very sadly dropped my ice cream on the floor. Here it is. Too bad, but you know what? Not actually that bad, because this means that my puppy can have a taste. She's very excited. You can tell because her tail is wagging. So I'm holding her leash and it's going to her collar. Right, and if we want to set the scene a little bit, we are right in front of the window where we bought the ice cream, and this disaster ensued immediately afterwards. And the man who sold me my ice cream is looking at me. He's a little bit puzzled. He's wondering why I've already dropped it. Put a little question mark here. Okay, so that's my little daily adventure. So again, I hope that this will inspire you to pick up your pencils, give drawing a try. I hope that you have fun. And thank you so much.